It's not a weakness. It's a strength. It's a reason for unity backing the party, backing the brand, and the candidates and officials, not tearing them down. So, in short, I'm thankful that it's a great time to be a Republican in Texas, and I'm very proud to say that I am one. So, with that, Parnell McNamara, Sheriff Parnell, is going to introduce our speaker.
Thank you very much, Wes. I'm very honored also to be part of this great Republican Party and be part of this group of fine men and women, conservative men and women here today. And just to be able to say that I am a part of it, I'm deeply honored. And I am very honored to be a part of this program and be able to introduce a man like Jerry Patterson. Over the years, Jerry Patterson has worn many hats. He has been an unbelievable state legislator. He's been a senator. He has served not only this state, but our great country that we live in. Oh, by the way, you probably think I wear these glasses because I can't see, but it's because they make me look like Buddy Holly. There's a few people here that remember Buddy Holly.
That'll be the day.
That's right. Don't ask me the same way. First of all, Jerry Patterson is known throughout America as a tough, authentic conservative Texan who brought fearless leadership to Austin. First as a state senator who passed the concealed handgun law, the home equity constitutional amendment, and then as our land commissioner as a staunch defender of our oil and gas industry, and by leading the permanent school fund to the landmark earnings. He is a retired Marine aviator, a Vietnam veteran, a father of 4, and a fighting Texas Aggie. First of all, I want to elaborate a little bit on Jerry's career, and I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for the service he did to this country in Vietnam. Vietnam veterans came back. They fought a tough war over there, and when they got back here, a lot of them had to fight a war again that never should have happened. They were rebuked, they were cursed, they had rocks thrown at them in certain places, they were spit on. That never should have happened. The commie, hippie, pinko freaks that were doing this, flag burning rats. They should never have been allowed to do that, and they did it under their right of free speech. As far as I'm concerned, they did not have a right to do that to our soldiers. And I want you to know that if any of the deputies of the Sheriff's Department ever see a piece of trash spit on one of our soldiers or mistreat him in any way, he will be taken down very hard and given a slow ride to the jail. We're not going to tolerate something like that here. I want to thank you for your service to this country, and you and other men like you are the reason that we're here free today. I want to see the hands of everybody in here that's ever served in the military. If you raise your hand, please. The room is full. Thank every one of y'all. My heart goes out to all y'all. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. Also, I want to talk about the concealed handgun program, which came about. It's part of the Second Amendment. And I know Jerry Patterson is a big advocate of our Constitution, as most all of us in here are. I certainly am. We have a right. That Constitution was written 200 years ago, as we know, and it's the moral compass that has guided our country. And we simply cannot let these other folks, and you know who I'm talking about, do anything to take it apart or disband it. And one of the strongest things in there is the Second Amendment, and that is people's right to keep and bear arms. And it's just plain and simple. It says that right shall not be infringed. It doesn't say may not or whatever. It says that they shall not be infringed. And that gives every one of us here today and in this great state and this country the right to protect ourselves. And I want to tell you one thing, from being in law enforcement now going on 34 years, the police can't be everywhere at once, and people need to take responsibility for their own safety. How many people are at a crime scene before the police get there? There's a whole lot. How many people are at a fire before the firefighters get there? There's a lot of people there before the first responders, as we're all called, get there. We would like to be there first, but the person that it's happening to is the first responder, not the police. And how a person reacts in the first few seconds of an attack or an assault may make a difference whether they survive or not. And Mr. Patterson here has made that possible with this concealed handgun legislation that he passed. He passed it the first time during Governor Ann Richards' term. And her famous quote was, "It'll be a cold day in hell that I ever let people on the street carry guns." So what it did, it let the criminals be armed and disarm the honest people. So when Governor Bush took over, he allowed that law to take effect, and I want to thank you for continuing that effort to get this passed. And I know there's several concealed handgun instructors sitting out here today. I appreciate you guys. I've been one for 7 years. These fellows that are here have been one lot longer than I have. But there's so many people alive because of this legislation that Jerry Patterson got passed. And I want a big hand for him for that effort right there. That was a tough fight for him. It's my understanding that he was pretty much by himself when he got this passed through. And he and a lady named Susanna Hupp, and God bless both of them. She was at Luby's. People talk about all these bad killings all across the country, Aurora, Colorado, different places. We had the worst mass killing, I think, in the U.S. right down the road here at Killeen. 23 people were killed, and no telling how many others were horribly wounded. But based on that, Susanna Hupp was in there. She saw both of her parents shot and killed right in front of her. Her mother begging the guy not to shoot her father again. So anyway, he killed her. So she teamed up with Jerry Patterson, and they got this legislation passed, and we're so thankful for that. I want to say one thing. There was a young couple that came to my class with his mother, his dad, and his wife. They were all from Cossack, a little country town out here east of Marlin. 3 months after he got out of the class, he had a home invasion at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 2 drug-crazed thugs came in and attacked him with a gun. He had his own gun, and he had a shootout in his house with both of these people. He ended up killing both of them. That man and his... Thank you. That man and his wife are still alive. Thank goodness for the concealed handgun legislation that Mr. Patterson got passed. He had a gun. He'd been through the class. He had it up here. He knew how to protect himself. And the story goes on and on and on. There's thousands of people that have been saved because they had the wherewithal and they were able to protect themselves. And it all stems from the concealed handgun law. And I want to thank you again for your effort there. And we're very fortunate to have a man like Jerry Patterson in our state legislature and in our state government. And so please welcome me to welcome Jerry Patterson, our next Lieutenant Governor of this great state of Texas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. I think I'll just take questions now. How's that going? It's kind of unusual for me to follow the sheriff. Generally, the sheriff is following me. I've noticed throughout my life, and it's been a problem. Law enforcement is usually at my 6 o'clock, not at my 12 o'clock. But, I want to talk, I don't really know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't have a flip chart. I don't have a dry erase board. I'm just going to talk, ramble around various subjects. Some of them might be entertaining, some of them might be informative. But I recognize that my job at this point is to speak And your job is to listen. But if you get done before I do, feel free to leave the hall. That's happened before. I mean, I don't need any great amount of respect. You know, I've campaigned a lot. I've learned that you can't take yourself too seriously. When I was running for land office, you know, to be a Texas land commissioner, I was campaigning, I forgot where it was. I think it might be in Lubbock. And I'm talking to this group of folks, and you know, the guy comes up to me, you know, I could tell he was pretty motivated about what I had to say, and he really liked me, and, you know, and he says, I just wish I could vote for you, but I can't. I live in precinct 2. And I said, I'm running for Texas Land Commissioner. He says, yeah, I don't think I'm in your precinct. That's what, you know right then that you're not all that special. You know, and then you have other interesting experiences. I really like campaigning. I mean, I really do. I was running back in 1992 for the Texas Senate in a district that was extremely Democratic district. It was Southeast Harris County, Pasadena, Deer Park, LaPorte, heavy labor area, you know, organized labor down into Galveston County as well, Texas City. And I did a lot of door-to-door. I mean, I walked doors, and then also found out that, you know, long-term care facilities, retirement homes, nursing homes, whatever you want to call them, are a really good place to campaign. Because your audience can't leave very easily. Pretty much captive audience, you know. So I'm in there and I'm talking to this lady in a room, and you know, she and another resident, they shared this room, and this lady was sitting in this rocking chair next to her bed, and I started talking to her, and told her I was running for the Texas Senate, and she quickly interrupted me, and she said, Sonny, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? I said, well, ma'am, I'm a Republican. And she stopped me right there. When she heard the R come out, she stopped me and she says, I have never in my life voted for a Republican, and I sure as hell ain't starting now. So I took that as kind of a challenge. I kept talking in a very, you know, respectful tone. I told her that I had grown up here in Southeast Harris County, that my dad had worked at the petrochemical plant his whole life, and, you know, that my dad was a World War II, you know, bomber pilot, and that I was a Marine Vietnam veteran, and that I was more like her than most of the Democrats. And I could tell that I was making progress when you get these subtle affirmative head nods. But all the time I'm standing, I'm talking to her, I was a little nervous, and so she had this bowl of peanuts, and I was eating these peanuts, you know, nervously talking to her. And finally she interrupts me and she says, Sonny, I like what you're saying. I'm going to vote for you. And I was just ecstatic. I said, ma'am, I will never let you down. I'll always return your phone calls. I'll answer your letters. I'll come by and see you and the other residents here. You know, and I looked and I noticed that I had eaten all those peanuts. And I said, ma'am, I'm so sorry I've eaten all these peanuts. And she said, Sonny, don't worry about it. Ever since I lost my teeth, I've only been able to suck the chocolate off of them anyway. What's for dessert? What do we have back there for dessert? I had some copper. The sheriff gave a background on what I've done, where I've been. You know, I do want to make another recognition in here today. I want all the moms and dads, grandpas, whatever, grandmas, those of you who have young men or women from your family that are currently serving in the armed forces, please stand. I know we got a Marine mom back there, but I want you all to recognize all those that have family that are serving, because I do as well, and I'm proud. My son, Travis, he's an Aggie, and he's a Marine, and he's been overseas 4 times. You know, 3 in the war on terror. He's the 5th consecutive generation of our family to have served overseas in wartime. And I'm real proud of him. And I know all y'all are proud of your family members as well. So, you know, we talked about the concealed handgun law, and I want to tell you something. One of the things, the fundamental beliefs that I have, is that our Bill of Rights is not today what many people think it is. You know, I heard just recently a professor at Texas A&M talk about, well, we need to revisit and repeal that Second Amendment. We need to look at that and think that maybe it was suitable in 1791 when the Bill of Rights was adopted. It was suitable and usable when we were fighting the British Crown. It was suitable when we needed to arm ourselves as we moved westward and had to fight the savages. the Comanches and all of that, but really it's outlived its usefulness. Well, there's the problem with that premise. That professor of law apparently doesn't know the law. Because I have to tell you that those things that are in our Bill of Rights, 1 through 10 in our U.S. Constitution, and plus some more that have been added since, 1 through 30 in our Texas Constitution, are liberties that were not granted by government. Because if government grants liberty, it follows that government somehow has the power to take that liberty away. Those things that are in our Bill of Rights are enumerations, list of rights that we possess by virtue of being born free men and free women. They are God-given natural rights, and they're not negotiable. And those rights sometimes have bad outcomes. The Second Amendment allows people to have firearms, and some people abuse that privilege and do bad things. And when I hear people talk about the repeal of the Second Amendment, I say, well, we've got to make things safer. I said, if you really wanted, for the sake of discussion only, make things safer, let's repeal the First Amendment, because we talk about the venue shootings, the mass killers, the 26 at Sandy Hook or Aurora, Colorado, or Virginia Tech. And in every one of those circumstances, we had somebody who was crazy, who got the idea about doing this deed by watching television, 24/7 broadcast coverage of the shooter du jour. And then another kid looks at that and says, hey, I can be famous too. So if you want to stop it and you want to repeal an amendment that would do that, it's likely that it would be the first, not the second. But you know what? None of them can be repealed. I mean, they're not absolute. I understand that. I don't have a right to have a nuclear bomb, unless I really need it, but I don't need it just yet, But I know they're not absolute, but my point is that liberty has a price. Liberty has bad outcomes. It's the price we pay for enjoying liberty. There are people who will mess it up. But if you try to dumb it down to where everybody's 100% safe, you completely eliminate liberty. Now, we got an example that occurred right up here in Fort Worth about 3 days ago. Fort Worth Police Department, what were they doing? They were randomly stopping people as they drove down the street. They were putting them over in a parking lot, and contractor for the Department of Homeland Security was taking blood and breathalyzer samples. And the Fort Worth PD were participants in this random search. I got an answer for that. If any of you are ever stopped and they pump you, just say no. And you know what the reason you can say no for is? Because you can. You live in a country where you can say no. You live in a country where if you get stopped, somebody will kind of search your vehicle. I've had that happen to me. I said, no. And they said, well, why? What do you got to hide? Nothing. Well, why do you tell me no? Because I live in a country where I can. So when you were enumerating the things to be thankful for, that's the thing that I'm most thankful for. I live in a country where I have the ability to say what I want, do what I want, as long as I don't harm other folks. I live in a country where I'm free to make an idiot of myself. I live in a country where people can get a soapbox, go down to the county courthouse, stand up and say really crazy things. But, if you take away the right to say crazy things, you're taking away the right to say things that are important, that are cogent, that are on point, that help protect our liberty. So those are the things that I'm thankful about. And as an author of the Concealed Handgun Law, I have to tell you that the Second Amendment is the defender of the rest. I even have a bumper sticker, Second Amendment, defender of the rest. Because it truly is. Without that, all others could be at some point in jeopardy. How do you tell a true believer from someone who's not? I'll tell you what,